Hello and welcome to the Whiskey Waiter. I'm here today with David Vitale, the founder of Starward Distillery. We just had an awesome tasting here at the Brühler Whiskey House with Marco Bonn. Thank you very much. It was quite interesting.
Thank you. It was great.
And now we have the single cask, A Dream of Australia, Starward.
Yes.
Have you tried this one?
I have.
You have.
It's what I love about our single barrels is that they're all so different. I mean, that's the magical thing, and I think every distiller probably says that. But because we're aging in wine barrels, we get so many different wineries that we get to work with, and then the different wood policy from the winemaker makes a big difference in terms of the flavor that we get from each of the barrels.
Okay, it says charred wet wine barrique.
Yeah.
So it's STR casks or what?
Yeah, it's as close to. I mean, for those of you that are familiar, STR is shaved, toasted, recharred, and we do that sort of same process that's very common with wine barrels. But because we're so close to wineries, we don't have to do the heavy char that often is the case when you're transporting barrels across an ocean or long distances. So it's very close to an STR, but maybe more like a STT, double toast, like a heavy toast. You know,
I know what you mean.
To the whiskey, to the barrel. Yeah,
nice. The bottle has 57.8% ABV.
Yeah.
You told me earlier that you go to the cask with 55%. How's that?
So we have a high amount of angel share at the distillery, and what's most common at Scotch whisky distilleries is the alcohol goes down over time. We stay the same or go a little bit up because of the humidity. So in Melbourne, it's a little bit drier than it is more humid, and so the evaporation is actually more water than alcohol. So yeah, but roughly 5 to 7% per annum. Angel share. Yeah.
Okay, 5 to 7%. It's okay.
Yeah, it's not crazy.
It's not crazy,
but
like,
it's a
like
lot.
In Kavalan. With
Yeah,
Kavalan,
they're crazy.
Yes.
Or in Texas, it's the same thing. It's very intense, but it's still very active aging in Melbourne. Yeah.
So we have a 4-year-old whiskey here.
Yeah.
And I think you said Starward won't ever have a 15-year or 20-year-old whiskey because it's going like this.
Yes.
Because of the climate change, because of the temperature differences.
Yeah. We have very hard-working barrels at the distillery. So basically, in 1 year we can have 20 seasons almost. And so that means that the barrels are always expanding and contracting. And so after a period of time, they become very, very, very oaky, over-oaked. And so 4 years for a barrique is the bullseye. Okay. We can get 6 years, depending on where the location is of the barrel in the inventory.
But and depend on the cask, probably?
Of course, depend on the cask. If we've got, for example, a Pinot barrel, where it might have been 5, 6, 7 years at the winery before we get it, we can age it a bit longer because it's less extractive. But if we get a Shiraz barrel that's only had one vintage and then come to Starward, that barrel after 6 years is cooked. Yeah.
Okay. So what do you have in the nose?
I got early on. I had a bit of a tobacco character coming through. Obviously, the signature red wine characteristics from Starward of like the berries and
very fruity
and fruit.
And I have some creaminess. It's very creamy, like you have a berry jam.
Yes,
something like this.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Often for those of you that familiar with Wimbledon, there's strawberries and cream character coming through, but because it's a charred barrel, which is quite rare for Starward, we also get a little bit more of those caramelized oak notes.
Yes,
and often, what I get is dark cherries.
Yeah, I wanted to say cherries, like this Amarone cherry. Not Amarone, Amarena cherry.
Yes.
I have something like this. So, cheers.
Cheers. The middle of the palate just keeps going and going and going.
It is very long. It's very mouth filling.
Yeah.
It's a lot of wood. I wouldn't imagine how much wood a 4-year-old whiskey can have, but I think it's what you said. Like the cask is working all day long.
All day long. Yeah, and you know the trick for us is that we want to keep it in balance with the spirit and the fruit characters. And so this is, to me, the wonderful thing for me is that we have a lot of oak character, but it's balanced by the fruit and our spirit coming through as well.
Very nice.
Mm.
So it's a single malt, but you said you are also do experiments with grain whiskies.
Yeah.
So when do we can expect the first grain whiskey or blend whiskey, or it's just experiments and you want to keep doing single malts?
We're still working on solving that for the European market. But we're working on it. And one of the things that at the moment is we can't keep up with demand. But we have a wheat whiskey that we send. Luckily in Europe, you guys have the French oak single malt whiskey called Left Field. No one else in the world has that, but the compromise was that America got a wheat whiskey. So we've got a wheat whiskey in the United States, but maybe at some point we can do a swap and bring some wheat to Europe and some French oak to the Americans. Yeah.
Nice. I would love to try that. But the focus will always be single malt.
Single malt and red wine aging. Yeah.
Perfect.
Yep.
Okay. Can you give us some outlook what we can expect from the future from Starward?
Yeah, look, I think one of the things that we get most excited about is innovation. We have got really broad whiskey regulations, which mean that we can try things that are a lot harder to try in different whiskey making countries. So always looking at different barrel types, of course, looking at different fermentation styles. That's another big thing that we do.
Different wood types, maybe?
Different wood as well, yeah.
Not only oak?
Not oak, but if we go down that path, it's unlikely it'll be red wine aged. So we've got to kind of keep that in check. But I think the other thing that gets me excited as a drinker is having easier drinking whiskies. And so one of the things that we've been exploring more recently is bottled cocktails and thinking about how we can take whiskey for a walk with different drinkers that maybe say, I don't like whiskey, but you go, well, try this. And then all of a sudden we get them into the family and then off they go, They just need a good first experience.
Yes, it's like my wife always likes a good whiskey liquor with something like 20 to 30% of alcohol.
Right.
She loves it because it's a little bit more sweet.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Cheers.
Thanks for having us. We'll have a tasting in the future with Starward.
Absolutely.
I'm really looking forward to this. And thank you for the nice evening and have a good night.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Cheers.